Welcome to this, the 24th episode of Data Lab Dialogues. My name is Thomas Madsen. I'm Enterprise Architect with SAP. Together with me today, Carl Baustrom, also Enterprise Architect.
Hello, Thomas. Nice to be here in Copenhagen again.
Yes, so we are actually back in Copenhagen. So we went to Skåne the last time, obviously. Now back in Copenhagen, but not in our own office. We are in the office of Trifork on Sortedamsdosering. That's in the middle of Copenhagen. We are on the 5th floor in this nice setting, the design thinking room, and I guess we will hear a little bit more about design thinking later on. Today's guests are actually two. They are
Gregory Doukas.
Gregory Doukas. It was David Kargo here. And welcome to you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us. Thank you for the opportunity to chat to you.
We have looked forward to this conversation. We will be talking about development today. And before we start though,
yes.
Has any of you been to Greenland?
Yes, one time, but that was actually not regarding IT work. It was I'm playing in a rock band, and we had a concert at the Thule Air Base, the American military base, where we had we were hired, even though we're amateur band, but they were very nice. So we were up there and playing for all the American soldiers, and the Danish people worked there, and it was quite fun.
Yeah. Was it a success?
Yeah, I think so. We thought so.
Yeah. So then maybe we'll hear about the Greenlandic success later on. Let's have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though we're IT people, we've got like 3 rock stars in the company.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get started, and the reason why we ask about Greenland is because you have actually made a small project with Royal Greenland.
Yes.
Can you tell us just a little bit about that? I know we'll get back to it later on, but what was this about?
Yeah, David, you want to go for it?
Yes, it's actually about the people, the fishermen at Royal Greenland. Previously they had this paper-based process where when they deliver the fish into the harbor, to the factory, they needed to sign all kinds of papers, register what did they catch and so on. And that was something that sometimes they entered the wrong data, or sometimes they forgot to deliver it in time and all this stuff. So it was very error-prone, and there were lots of delays. And Royal Greenland, they have a lot of demands from the authorities. So they actually need to report 2-3 times a week. So delays are not good in that process. And on the other hand, Royal Greenland wants to kind of make it easier for the fishermen to be supplying fishes to Royal Greenland. So that's why this idea about having a digitalization of the process to make it easy for the fishermen to register the catches, how they were cast and so on, that was a good case. So they wanted to try to see if we could build a solution for that, a mobile solution, including integration to SAP.
Yeah. And furthermore, you can imagine if you have so much paper coming from the fishermen, it's not exactly a very clean environment. And you have a whole pile of papers, fishy papers, standing on someone's desk, and they have to capture this in the SAP system. Yeah. So this person didn't really enjoy their job.
No.
And I guess even optical character recognition can have a challenge with that kind of
fishy papers.
And of course, fishermen trying to write with gloves and trying to understand the handwriting. Yeah, so it was we heard from some of the data capturers that they'd never been on leave for years because they just had so much work and so much paperwork to just keep capturing data. Yeah. So, yeah, we think we improved their lives.
Yes. I think we should put the video that explains what you just said to the podcast.
Absolutely.
And so that people can have a look at the process.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll provide the link. Basically, you should watch it for sure. I got basically a lump in my throat when I saw it. It's such a beautiful video, a beautiful story, actually. Yeah. It has all the elements, improving people's lives there, sustainability.
Efficiency.
Absolutely, yeah.
Win-win story.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
My name is Sabutja. I'm a local fisherman in Idudisset. Since I was little, I have been fishing with my granddad. It's the most sustainable way to catch halibut using long lines instead of riding down Now we use an application on our phones to fulfill the information required so that the authorities can keep tracking how we are fishing. Let's go back to the harbor and sell the cats.
Massakkut алисаккатулаанеқарникут мисиссулерпакка ниллиссусаа оқимаассусаа питтаассусаалу айпатсимик иммерсуурлу
алисартуиммерсунгаа такуара таккерпара опқатсеқпара алисартутакусиннаангорпаа.
We decided to digitalize this process to make the life easier for the fishermen, and SAP Business Technology Platform is a platform we can build upon. With our partner Trifork Smart Enterprise, we have developed the 3 apps. We have the fisherman apps, we have the weight and quality apps, and then we have the back office web application. It's a closed loop process and we are really happy. It goes fast, it's accurate, and it brings us some value for us. We have in the southern part of Greenland some fisheries which is MSC certified. To be able to get those certificates, we need to have really good statistics. As we have more than 70,000 purchase orders for the fishermen every year, it is also very important that we have a smooth process. The fishermen have a full overview of their earnings and also their financial situation.
The price have gone up because we fish sustainable.
We are supporting the business and we are supporting the lives of those families, contributing to both society and the people working with our solutions.
So that the next generation can keep fish like we do.
That is a great story, and we'll get back to that a little bit on how you actually developed this program. But before we do that, could you guys perhaps tell a little bit about yourselves? If we start with you, Greg,
Yeah,
who are you
sure.
and why are you here?
Why am I here? So my name is Gregory Doukas. Well, the one sentence summary is I'm a South African Greek currently living in Barcelona.
Working for a Danish company.
Working for a Danish company, yes. Let me unpack that. Yes, my childhood was in Greece. I moved to South Africa, hence the South African accent, which I lived most of my adulthood. About 3 years ago, I decided to move back to Europe. And yeah, Trifork was opening up an office in Barcelona, so it was a great opportunity for me. And I joined the team. Career-wise, I studied computer science. I got a master's in computer science focusing in AI. I started my career about 15 years ago in South Africa with one of the leading banks in South Africa. And they trained me up in SAP ABAP CRM5. It was fun doing web UIs and that technology. Then eventually I joined Dimension Data, which I think now is owned by NTT. And there I started with Neo, the infamous Neo. And yeah, from there my cloud journey just expanded. Currently these days I'm focusing on app development in the cloud, in BTP, and everything from HANA, UI5, ABAP, and yeah, everything in between.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Nice. And you, David?
Yes, I'm working here as a SAP architect and developer, and I started actually in Germany at SAP, but I am from Denmark, and I just moved down there to work 3 years, and that was
in Waldorf?
In Waldorf, yeah, that was very exciting. Because I also lived in Germany when I was a child, but that's another story. So that was fun to work down there for 3 years, and then I got back, and I also started with ABAP and all this stuff, and followed then on to the SAP portal and did web development and these things. And then BTP was very interesting when it came out, first as Neo and so on. And so I also joined that journey, and yeah, it just gives a lot of interesting options. So yeah.
That's great to hear. I mean, has it been, I mean, just when you say BTP and the fact that it's interesting, is it easier now to let's say, get resources, get people to work on SAP solutions with the BTP in place, or is it as hard as it ever was?
I think it's difficult to get, of course, still skilled people, but we now can use a wider variety of resources because we can use, we have a lot of core developers doing Node.js, doing Java, all these other languages, so that we also can use now in the BTP environment. So
Yeah, I see it as a plus and a minus. So from the one side, when SAP opened up the stack, it became exciting because you can, as you say, get everyone involved. But now all these other people getting involved, they also know everything else. They're like, oh no, we should use other things. We should use Angular. We should use like, no guys, come back. And some of them are, when they look at when they hear SAP, of course they hear the history of SAP, like, oh, SAP must be complicated. I don't want to get in there. Like, no, it's just another cloud provider. You can just do whatever you want. So just go with it. And we have to train our core developers up. Say, well, this is the cloud platform that we have, and it has a lot of benefits. So let's look at it and look at it seriously. And slowly we're converting them. Well, it's one of my roles in the company to try convert them and show them, BTP can do great things, and you shouldn't just immediately jump to something else. But yeah, definitely, I think BTP has opened up a lot of doors for our customers and as consultants, as developers. Much easier to get in here. Even the SAP UI5 stack. I mean, you can take any JavaScript or anyone who knows Angular, React, and within a couple of weeks they can be up and running with their SAP UI5 project. So yeah, it's been. I think it's been the right move for SAP.
Yeah. Great. I mean,
Great to hear. Because it's being old style ABAPs coming from that angle. I mean, I have tried it out, but there is still, you need to get over over a certain level and to see the light.
I think it's also interesting, we can learn from these new core people, right? Because I also jumped into web development, for example, but I'm not maybe a born web developer, you could say, so I had to learn a lot of things also, and that's a good way to learn from these focused web developers that have other backgrounds, so that's good.
That's why we don't ask David to do front ends. You don't want to see his front ends.
Yeah, you need a special skill for that.
We let Fiori Elements do that for him.
Now we are at this exciting area, but maybe first also understand Trifork.
Yes.
What's the company?
Trifork. So Trifork is quite a big company actually. We're currently, the official title, we're a next-gen IT company that provides various resources. We are over 1,000 employees at the moment. We have 52 business units. Where we are right now, this is Smart Enterprise. So it's currently consisting of, we are 3 units, Barcelona, Copenhagen, Aarhus. And we focus on providing enterprise innovation and great user experiences using our partnerships with SAP and with Apple. And so we believe, so as I said, the Smart Enterprise, vision is to provide amazing user experiences, specifically to these enterprise customers. Why we are 52 business units is because Trifork has this mentality that we shouldn't let any business unit grow too large. And it's a very nice philosophy that whenever a business unit grows to about 40, 42, 45, we start thinking, okay, how can we logically split the units? What we see is as soon as you do that, the bureaucracy, you don't have bureaucracy going wild in an organization, and it actually keeps the hierarchy quite flat. So I think in Copenhagen, how many are you?
25 or something?
Yeah,
like that? Yeah,
I think 25. So. And I mean, this is just one of our offices in Copenhagen. There's another business unit, or another 2 business units. Well, there's another official Trifork business unit. There's Arken Labs, which is also another business unit. In Aarhus, I think there's another 3 business units. So even though we're in the same location, there's different business units. In Spain, we are Barcelona unit, and we have a Mallorca unit. So we're all we're all part of the same family, but doing maybe slightly different things. So
Do you collaborate if a customer comes with a requirement? Would it make sense, or is it self-contained?
The interesting thing is that we are not forced to collaborate. So we choose ourselves to say, okay, we want to use those and those resources or those units there because that makes sense. And I think that's a nice way of doing it. So it's more like inner-driven, and you set up the best team and
and naturally you can't have all the resources yourself, and you can't have all the skill sets yourself. So it's nice that you can have family units that you can rely on. So I need React developers, can you help me out? I need AI developers, can you help me out? I know currently with one of our recent wins, it was collaboration between 5 different business units. So yes, we do collaborate often. I think with DSB has been one example where we've been collaborating with the Mallorca unit, doing some artificial intelligence and doing a POC for them, and that's put together with the Trifork units. I think Aarhus or Copenhagen. I think it's Copenhagen, Mallorca, and other business units. So we do collaborate where it makes sense. And I mean, when we see these things, we also think, oh, awesome, let's do more stuff with them. So we're looking forward to working closer with our brothers and sisters across the units and to deliver great value. Because as I say, we can't all be specialists in everything.
No. Got it. Did you always do that, or did it accelerate during COVID that, now everyone was working virtual? Was there any change?
I think there was a change. I think it's mostly on the customer side, right? Because a lot of customers, they previously would like you to be on site some days every week. But now it's like, no, you don't need that. No, we just take a Teams meeting. So it's more like from the customer side, I see the change.
So it's helped me a lot being in Barcelona because when I just joined the company, I had to be here 3-4 times a month. Now it's like, okay, if we see you once a month, it's fine. So customers have become very flexible to work remote, and even within the customer themselves, you see people don't go to the office very often. So most of the times, everyone's just remote all the time or virtual all the time.
And I think that is a side effect of it, which I think was really good, that you get access to people so much easier. Because other than, being SAP, people were flying, traveling, some good guys, girls that you wanted to contact. Now you see green light. Okay. I can get a little busy. Yes, no. Little short question.
It's coming back a little bit now. I sense, but basically, you're right. It was so much easier to get hold of the big guns, and unfortunately, SAP is a large enterprise, and not at all like Trifork in the sense that we are subdivided here. But still, I enjoy working for SAP in the sense that you can basically write to almost anyone and actually expect to get a reply. And so while it is a big hierarchy, it's also flat in an
It's very network-based.
Exactly.
So if you have contact, whatever position that person has, it's reachable to get. That's nice with it.
But Trifork, you do SAP work, but I guess you do other work as well.
Yes, SAP work. So we're doing stuff in AI. We're doing
we do actually a lot of the health apps, here in Denmark. We have been participating developing those. Sundheds-appen and the Corona app. We have lots of stuff. We have been involved in that. So I would say the SAP part is a small part of Trifork as a whole. So I think we have 1,000 employees in total in Trifork.
Over 1,000 employees, I saw the number the other day. In Netherlands, we have a big Java house. They're busy working for some lottery customer. I don't know which one specifically. I know that in Switzerland, we have a big mobile development house. So they React developers, Angular developers. So then we have in Aarhus a big UX, design thinking UX, specifically Doukas. They specifically focus on doing that. And it's great for us because even though we have UXs internally, sometimes they're all allocated doing other stuff. So we can rely on our brothers and sisters to help us, run some of the workshops and help us with some of these things. So we have, I don't know all the units.
No. 50 units,
And I noticed that there's also a lot of labs. So labs is an interesting part, an interesting piece of the company where we invest in startups. And we give them a bunch of money and say, well, try it out. If it works out, then it's a great idea. It goes to fruition. If it doesn't work out, then we'll just let it go. And it's kind of like, I don't want to call it an R&D department, but it's kind of like, well, you're doing something cool. We don't know if it's going to work out. Let's try it out for a couple of years and see how it goes. And our CEO is very excited about this space. So whenever you have a great idea, he will say, okay, let's spin off a different business unit or a different lab, and here's some money and go and try it out and let's see how it goes. So
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. But we could talk, I guess, about Trifork for a lot of time. We are happy. We are so happy that you actually spend some of your time working with SAP solutions and making SAP look much more appealing to our clients.
And that's why Smart Enterprise is specifically bring that focus back to, say, enterprise customers. And as you know, most enterprise run SAP. So we have big focus on SAP and making sure that we can service our enterprise customers and their needs. Yeah.
Let's pivot back to Royal Greenland. And in that case, thanks for the explanation. I really enjoyed the case. But the question now is, I mean, how did this come about? How did this project initiate? And I guess that leads me to the question, how do you actually start projects with SAP clients? So how was the idea born?
I think there was a conference where different customers, they presented some of their cases, what they would like to improve and digitize in their own companies, and then we saw that, and then we contacted Royal Greenland, and I think we're one of the only one who dared to to take on this case, because it's not that easy, because you want to digitize something for end users that are out on the sea. Up at Greenland, there is no internet, there is no nothing, and you want them to be able to register all kinds of stuff and completing the whole process. So at least there would be some mobile and there would be some offline registration, because no internet connection, but they can't wait till they get into the harbor, because then that would take too much time. So we were talking to them, and we were proposing a solution where we have offline capability. They can use their mobile phones and register the catches, and then we will support all the roles required in the process. And that's not only the fishermen, that's also the people who are standing at the harbor receiving the fish. They will weigh how much fish is it and put in those data in an iPad solution, actually. So we have both a mobile phone, iPhone app, and an iPad app. And then we have the web app, which is for the bookkeeper, who then is the last line before it comes into SAP, which kinds of puts in material numbers and the more SAP artifacts. And then the purchase order is created in SAP after the web app has...
So it's an enrichment process from the catch and then waiting and then adding that kind of process.
Yeah, exactly. And what was interesting is that Royal Greenland was actually a very price-conscious customer. So you would think with price-conscious BTP or SAP is expensive. But we managed to actually form a package for them that was cost-effective for their requirements, and we're able to deliver the ultimate solution. Maybe within budget is a bit of a stretch, but with plus minus the budget, with a bit more. Yeah. So it was.
But it did what it was supposed to do, then some, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, now they're getting the benefits of that by being on the BTP platform and being able to expand. So that was, the reason we believed in BTP as a platform for them. They were an SAP house in the back end, and we told them, let's do BTP, and we were able to give them, as a package on BTP that was cost effective. So it doesn't cost thousands, it doesn't cost millions to run BTP. Actually running HANA in BTP. I think we're going to go into that a bit later. But we actually proposed to them, we used our internal development landscape to do just initial development, and then we transfer stuff to them. So it helped them not having to buy a full 3-tier environment. So that helped a lot from a costing perspective.
Ah, right. Yeah, got it. Yeah. That's sneaky.
But what was it, the 2-tier?
They bought a 2-tier? Q and Pro.
Yeah, nice. Okay, but so basically you contacted them, hey, this is a nice use case. We want basically to help you out here. And then what did you do? What was the process? Because I guess, the mobile phone, the iPad, the web app was not at that point in time clear in your head?
No, then we have a specific design thinking process here at Trifork Smart Enterprise, where we have several steps we go through. And very high level, it's like you have, of course, an intro, a kickoff, where you, and then you have some workshops where you have some field research where you interview the end users to make sure that you understand exactly what is it their daily life is, what are their pains. And then you have some...
In this case, it was the fishermen.
Yeah, exactly.
So some of your colleagues actually went there?
Yes.
Yeah. And also some of the bookkeepers, because they only had one guy at the factory who was skilled to put in the purchase orders in SAP. So he was a big bottleneck, and he never almost, like you said earlier, almost he had no vacation or anything. So there is, and the kickoff, you could say the first thing in the design thinking process is just very important is to define the challenge. Is it exactly that we try to solve? Then you write down like 1 or 2 sentences and totally, so everyone is clear about what the goal is. So there's no 2 different mindsets about what is it we're trying to achieve.
A clear objective,
yeah. And then there's a field research, as we talked about, where we interview the people, and then you also interview maybe different people, because so it's not one person's opinion that goes through the whole process, yeah. And then we have we have a lot of findings from those interviews, and then we go through the findings internally in a problem space workshop, and try to group those and find out what is important to look at and so on. And then we make maybe already some screens and some suggestions, and then we have a solution space with the customer. And
like mock-ups, or is it on paper screens?
It could be both.
Depending on how much time we have. I mean, of course, we all want to give them like nice wireframes, but if not, then we just give them a napkin. And
But then later on, it's more and more refined into actually we're using this tool Figma, which is a normal tool for UX designers, and there already are iOS controls, native controls available, so we can actually do some screens that will look very much like it would be when the app is finished. And there was a very high focus on usability, because of course these fishermen, they needed to have something that is quick and easy, and there should be enough space and all this stuff.
And not very tech savvy, so
exactly.
Super user friendly. Yeah.
And actually they also have a map on the phone where they can zoom in, and then they see there is a grid where you need to register in which grid did I catch these fish. So there's a huge grid on top of Greenland. Then you zoom in, then you can select the grid, and so you don't need to worry about was I there or there. You can just go in and do it, and they probably do it right away as they're there.
Yeah. But I think what David just described is what is core in our philosophy in Trifork is that we pay special attention to the design thinking process or the design process as a whole, and we don't like to speed it up. We don't like to do a 3-day design thinking process. I mean, we stretch it out, sometimes 4-6 weeks, to make sure that we get the right information, and we insist that we speak to the right people, we speak to the fishermen. We insist that we get different people, so not the same fishermen coming all the time, or the different people coming in there.
Is that a challenge? Because sometimes...
Yeah, it is a challenge, and a lot of times we have to push back and say, no, we need this, and the customer a lot of times pushes back. But eventually, when we show them the value they get out of it, and when they see that, like, wow, okay, this is the feedback we're getting from our end customers, and sometimes you're teaching the managers or the higher ups that actually this is what's going on the ground. So it's happened many times that we've we identify when we actually start speaking to the people, the problem statement is completely different to what they told us initially. So and that's exactly why we believe that we need to speak to these people, and we need to have a proper design thinking process and go through these exercises. And at the end, providing them the wireframes that will be the end solution, and then from there. So we don't like to talk solution technology in them because that's irrelevant. We experts, we know we'll do it.
Do you think this is like a dual thing, or will we change in 5 years from now? It will go like this, or is it the tech thing? This designing part where you're working, and you say we need to spend the time.
Yeah, actually, we sell that without doing a solution sometimes, because the amount of learning it gives to the people inside the company, as you also mentioned, that is a huge value for the companies, and some more and more companies see that value now. So that's also why maybe some years ago, companies, consultancies will maybe go out and say, we do this for free, because then we get the project afterwards. But we are more and more doing it as a isolated contribution, or as a value that we come with as a project in itself, just doing the design thinking process, because it gives so much value. But then you also need to do it the right way, otherwise it's...
And that's why it's important to have the right stakeholders in the room from this beginning. And who's driving the project? A lot of times when it's IT driving the project, then they say, no, don't approach business. It's an IT project, we'll do everything, we'll deliver it. And time again, we've actually accepted it and did something, and at the end it was never used. So, and we have a very
Then it's waste of money.
and it's an example in the past 5 years where we've done exactly that. That IT said, no, we need the solution. The business needs this. It's like, have you spoken to business? No, you don't need to speak of business. We know this is what they need. Okay, let's build it. We built the whole thing. We did the screens. It went live. No one used it. It became vaporware. So it's eventually. I mean, now I think it after. I think the other day someone asked about it. I mean, the code is there, but it's not. No one's using it.
Is it? I mean, yeah, it's an interesting point. But is it because the design is really poor, or is it because there was no sort of ownership in the process from the business that something basically was pushed upon? It might have been a good design, but since there was no kind of collaboration around it, it ended up not being used. Or
the design was it was fine. It was a beautiful app. It worked. I have to say, it worked very well.
Yeah.
But it didn't fit into the process. So IT did not understand fundamentally what the guy on the floor and the technician was doing out in the field. So when he saw this app, it's like, okay, it looks amazing. It doesn't do my job.
Yeah. So a lot of the things it's like traditional change management, right? How are we working in our company? And a lot of customers still are looking at that and maybe not knowing what are we exactly doing in our company. I mean, that's a bit dangerous to say, but in some areas it's more severe than others.
We have some supporting statistics on this because nowadays we are moving a lot of our ECC customers to S4. And everybody's concerned, my own development is a problem. We see stats that those customers who are moved, we have tools to investigate it. 60 to 80% of the own developed code is not used. And so you don't need to move it on. That could be of many reasons. It was an old migration program since the 90s. That was never used. But there are for sure probably places where 20% with flies and will still be used. But just decided.
And I really like the slide from SAP Integrate where, I don't remember the speaker, but he said, as companies, you need to focus on what is your differentiating value, and then you focus your effort in doing development on what makes you different. Everything else, the standard processes, let standard software take care of it. Let SAPs take care of it and buy something off the shelf. You don't have to waste money and resources doing the standard stuff. Just let other things. Figure out why you're different and what makes you different in the industry, and focus in doing highly customized solutions for that space.
I think. I also want to sidetrack a little bit because I think the process that you're talking about here and the fact that design thinking or evaluating or coming to the right conclusions with respect to what are the actual user requirements are so important so that part of the process is so important. And how does that fit then with the fact that we keep promoting low and no code tools that supposedly should allow me, who are a non-professional in coding, to say, okay, I have a business problem here. Hey, let me do a small app because I can. But then I have sort of skipped the process where I actually evaluate. What is actually required of this? How does this fit together?
You're poking a thorn. So, us being a consultancy, we of course mostly pro-code developers. So low-code tools always comes like, what is this about? But I really feel no-code has a great place in rapid prototyping, and especially in these design thinking workshops. If you have enough time, you can actually go ahead and you can actually build a functional app. Ultimately, what we sell to our customers is an exceptional user experience, and we do that by providing fully native apps with that experience. But I feel that using these low-code tools, you can actually build something that looks good enough for them to understand the process, understand an integration, and then they can see this working end to end, and then you can hopefully get the cell to continue doing on.
All right.
Of course, no-code is also a great accelerator for us. Depending on the tool, some tools you can take it from no-code to pro-code. Other tools you have to stick to that. And as I say, for me, it's it's a great tool for prototyping. But I mean, I'm going to be biased because we are pro coders, and that's what we do. And it's. But again, I would use it if a customer calls me up and says, I have this requirement. Can you show me? Can you build an app that does this? I say, well, you're going to give me 3 months, or you're going to give me 3 days. If you give me 3 days, I'm going to use a no-code tool to just put something together. And that's what it's about. It's about being able to show, especially customers that have never seen a mobile app, to very quickly get them to see something and get them excited about it. Okay, let's talk about the real thing.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Right. So first, design thinking. You got the design right then.
Yes.
You have your let's say mock-ups, papers, and all that.
Problem statements.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Then on to development. And is there any uniqueness in the way you do development, how you staff your organization, or how do you go about it?
We call David.
Yes, you could say that at that time we knew it has to be an offline app. And we knew that the usability needs to be top-notch. So we went for doing custom iOS apps. That means that we are not using Fiori, we're not using a web app or something, we're not using some tool that generates the iOS screens. We built them using real iOS developers totally from scratch.
SDK.
Yeah, but we used the SDK from SAP for BTP iOS SDK, I think it's named now. Because that gives offline capability. So we have a local offline store on the device, on the iPhone. And this is then synced to the HANA database where we store all the data and where we also read the data from.
When you are implemented
on connection,
when you're internet connected. So the fishermen out there, they don't have that. Yeah, they work with an API app.
But typically they will onboard, log into the app first time when they are connected. Then they will get all the master data from SAP actually, because we replicate the master data from SAP into the HANA database, which is on BTP in the cloud. And then all the master data, that could be something like your personal information, that you have a vendor number as a fisherman, you have these licenses, you have license to fish cod, and you have license to fish some other stuff. And all the master data has been transferred to your phone. And then you can start registering your catches, and then it's synced back again every time you're online.
Yeah, I think you alluded to it, but just to clarify the stack. I mean, so they have ECC in the background. So we gave them BTP in the cloud, HANA database in the cloud. We're using SLT to do replication. We tried to do SDI, we failed. Not because of us, but let's get into that later. So we're replicating data to the HANA cloud, and then we use CAP to build OData services that are then consumed by mobile services, and then by, of course, the native mobile app using the mobile SDK for that syncing. So, in CAP, we actually using the SAP data, and then we enrich it with additional models as the additional data that we need for the fishermen, and then we're providing services to the front end. The mobile app, 2 mobile apps.
Yes, one iPhone app and one iPad app. Yeah, and we actually built the 3rd one, which is for those who don't have a phone, an iPhone, or just don't have a phone. They can go at the factory and use a kiosk solution. So there's an iPad standing free, and so everyone can go and use it if they don't have it on their own phone.
Okay.
But we're right now running a project where we're doing an Android app.
Okay.
So because right now we have 500-600 fishermen who use it with their iPhone, but they want to extend and to have, see if we can get everyone on board, all the fishermen. So now we're doing an Android app, which is also going to be native.
And how many is all the fishermen?
I think there's 2,000 or more than that, but I think right now the goal is to get above 1,000 to begin with, but that's still a lot. Yeah.
Is that all around Greenland, or is it mostly on the western part?
Mostly on the western part.
Yeah. Okay.
And on the back end, we have a web app, which is Angular, and then again hosted on BTP. So we're hosting an Angular app on BTP that's connected to that OData service. So yeah, and it's been working very well for the past.
So yeah. So just me getting my understanding around this. So you have an ECC side, master data, transactional data that we need, and the master data is pushed over to HANA. There you have an application that you have built not in ABAP, but which coding language?
Well, it's CAP, Node.js, Node.js, CAP, SAP CAP.
Yep. Okay.
And you use CDS notation as
Yeah. So it's using CDS notation, and as I say, building entities, additional entities, and then joining that up to the data that we're getting from ECC. So we're getting master data, and we also purchase orders from SAP and all that information from SAP, and then enhancing it with additional information that we need to store locally, and then providing those services to the front end.
And actually, the story is actually the grid I talked about. The grid on the map.
Yeah.
That is also maintained in SAP. So that's actually, we're also reading that into the HANA database.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of coordinates. It's really huge, and that is then read from the phones also. So they have the map.
So they can point out where they have fished that fish.
And that's specified by the authorities. There's a specific grid where you need to enter an ID. You are fished here.
That's super interesting. Maybe later we can come back to
So
that.
you're using HANA's geo functionality?
No. We're just transferring all the coordinates that are maintained in SAP in some custom tables.
Got it. Yeah. But I mean, even when Royal Greenland moves to S4HANA, this HANA Cloud instance will still be relevant because you have auxiliary data there, and it's actually also caching information, right?
Thank you for that. I mean, that's one of the reasons we promote our customers to do this and always replicate the data into the cloud, because if the backend changes, so from now ECC to S4 eventually will start providing, well, not eventually, does provide APIs. So currently we're replicating data, but we can actually switch that off and actually start getting the data using the APIs. So there's various ways that you can start changing how you do this. Well, replication can happen the same way, but of course when we have to update data, we currently call OData services in ECC, which are custom OData services. As soon as we move to S4, we can replace that and we can switch over to standard S4 APIs to write data back. And as S4 keeps upgrading, the middleware, if you want to call it that, can stay the same. You're just updating your backend link and how that needs to connect. We promote this idea because 90% of our customers complain about performance in ECC. And let's be but let's be realistic. ECC was not built to be a web-driven engine.
No.
It's not there to handle 1,000 HTTP requests simultaneously. It's not built for that. I mean, and that's fine. Traditionally, it was a batch processing system. Now it's become more slick and it can do a lot more stuff.
Optimizing processes.
But it's still not meant to do thousands of concurrent requests. And when basis doesn't even know what to do with this. When they see 1,000 concurrent requests, they think that something is going wrong. We're under attack. So exactly the reason why we say, okay, well, let's take all those, because 90% of those calls are read requests. So take all of those read requests and move them to a HANA, into a central cloud instance like HANA, which we can scale infinitely. And we can have node services, and we can again scale infinitely very easily. You have one instance, two instances, and depending on the load, you can just up and resize it on the fly. And you hit all that load now hitting the HANA instance in the cloud, and only the write request going back to the backend system.
Of course,
So it minimizes the traffic considerably. Your read request becomes super fast. So the sync time between mobile app and the cloud is very quick. Of course, there's scenarios where it will be slow if you have a lot of data in HANA, if you're doing bad views in HANA, but that's a different discussion. But it's a lot faster than trying to read that same data from ECC. We're doing that now for many customers actually, 4, 5, 6. And it's been working very well, and they're very happy with it, and we swear by it.
Greenland is far away, right? And I guess you are still on Neo for this one?
No, it's Cloud Foundry.
Okay, but it's in Frankfurt or Amsterdam or something like that, right?
EU10, where's that?
That's Frankfurt, I think. And is there any latency issues at all? Of course, the offline, you don't have to worry about latency, obviously, but for the iPad and web app? So
No.
Okay.
I think the biggest performance improvements we had during the project was doing our own filtering correctly. So we're not reading all the data, but we're filtering. So we're not reading the complete HANA database, but we're doing some clever filterings. So the fisherman only gets the data that is relevant for him. Yes.
Okay. I was just really thinking about, I mean, we're talking a lot about this composable architecture where you decouple and what you're telling me, I mean, seems to be the value out of this. So both an architectural perspective,
exactly,
that makes great sense because everybody requests.
No, exactly. We see these architecture drawings all the time. Yeah. This is the ideal way to do it. It's so great to hear that, hey, this is how you do it actually, and it works.
And it comes back to providing a great user experience, because user experience is, yes, what the end user will see, but also it's an experience from a development perspective. Because now that we have everything there, for us to continue providing a great experience and improving the solution is much easier. We all know doing transport in ABAP takes a long time. And usually most organizations have a heavy bureaucracy in terms of doing anything in terms of ABAP. In the cloud space, it's much easier. It's in that space for us to do a quick change, to update something, create a new service, add a new field, just call David up, he will have it deployed in QA in half an hour, maybe production will take a few more days, and that's it.
Yeah, so so DevOps.
DevOps all the way, and it's a lot more flexible. The data is there, there's a lot less bureaucracy in that space because you already have a copy of the data. You're not worried about you're going to break a fundamental process in ECC because you're not touching that. So it becomes a lot more flexible, a lot more agile, and we can really do proper agile.
And you can say that we are not touching SAP until the last point in the process. So all the catch registration from the fishermen, that is stored only in the HANA database, and that's not written to SAP yet. So we have some local tables that only exist in the HANA database for all these catch registrations. And then when we're at the point where the bookkeeper using the web app says, now we're refining the last bits with the material numbers and everything, and it says create purchase order, then SAP is hit.
Once.
So in that way, we're not disturbing ECC, and we're also keeping it more clean, but we can have our own private space, so to speak, for this process where we...
So out of interest, so when the fisherman comes in, he might have, I'm actually not quite sure which fish he fishes, right? but he might have, 10 different sorts or species, whatever you call it. Is it a purchase order for each, or you basically purchase the entire catch? So to speak?
The entire catch.
Okay.
We've touched about the different B2B services. Did you also have any, back-end services required? DevOps, transport. Was that something that was also...
we actually have one direct OData call to ECC, you must say, and that's for seeing the final, you could say, invoice when the purchase order was going through and everything. So the fisherman can see, okay, this is actually the result of this, and this is how much money I will get. And so that's also very nice for the fisherman to be able to look that up. Because you couldn't do that in the old days. And he can actually also see statistics in his app. He can see what did I sell last year per month, for example. You can see how it's going up and down and how much money.
Very relevant for him, and gets
it's like his own net bank, you could say.
That's very important for him to be able to project, this is the income that's going to be coming in the next few weeks. Where before it was just waiting and hoping I'll get paid and calling the bookkeeper, please process faster.
Okay, so in principle they get paid, on delivery, or within a few days.
There are some actually where Royal Greenland is kind of controlling that it's paid out per a certain time period, as far as I know. But the interesting thing is also here it's kind of tying the vendor and the customer together, right? The fisherman and the Royal Greenland together more. So having these options to see what I'm doing of business with Royal Greenland and statistically wise.
That makes me ask, the fishermen, do they have an alternative to Royal Greenland? When they are out there and say, okay, this time, today, I want to go to whomever.
And that's also why if Royal Greenland makes it as easy as possible, then of course they will use Royal Greenland. Because they can quickly register and they don't need all this paper stuff, and then they can go out fish again. Instead of finding the queue, where should I stand and where my...
Absolutely. So the process is simpler and they tie the customer.
Now, we've heard about the different techniques, but how were your staff doing this? Were there different people that had different backgrounds serving different...
We had Ababa in Barcelona. We had David and another lady that was in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
We had a UX designer.
Yeah.
She was here, was she Aarhus?
Yeah, we are seeing we have 2 UX designers. Actually, we have 2 UX designers actually going up to Greenland and doing the field research and also being part of all the design thinking process. And we also have a graphic person on it because and you don't need to do that for all projects, but here it should be like totally consumer grade. And if you see the video, you will also see it's a very nice, nice app. And then we had, like you say, some people on B2P. That was me and Anna-Katrine. And then we had Jorge as ABAP developer. And then we have, I think, 2 iOS developers, at least 2 iOS developers on it. And then we have also a web app developer.
Yeah, okay, got it.
So a lot of people.
5, 6 people or so, but not full-time or...
I think the ABAP developer was there initially, trying to build that initial service, but I mean he was...
Yeah, that must be a minor bit.
It was a minor bit,
And
then I think the most work came down to David over here and Anna-Katrine, and of course the iOS developers and the web app developers. So those were the key development efforts. The UX designers, of course, in the beginning, a lot of work trying to build the screens, and then they wound down. And of course, an overall PM managing everything.
So how was the customer involved? I guess, I mean, we spoke about, the explore phase, lots of end users, but I guess IT in Royal Greenland was also involved to I don't know,
to some extent,
take it in. To some extent.
And I mean that's also some of the thing where we need to help the customer, right? Because people coming from the on-premise world with only an SAP inside their company network, suddenly going out to the cloud, and what about security? What about all this new systems we need to manage? And what about, do we need new role concepts? Do we need blah 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 governance? And I don't know. You can continue that road. And that's where we have a big task, kind of trying to tell the customer this is a good way to do it like this, and to help them along the way. But otherwise we had we ran using the Scrum methodology with sprints, and we had some demos and had the customer following along the way. How does it look? And have them test it also during the project. It was very
was a turnkey solution delivered by you, or? Yes. I mean, they were not in any way participating in sort of the development, or?
I mean, on the website, no. Everything was done by us. They were involved in just making sure that we're delivering the right thing. I think Jannica went there during the project at some point with the app to show the actual fishermen this is the app that's being built, and it came back with some constructive feedback. Yes, there have been certain points that we went and speak to the actual end users, but the whole process was effectively done by us.
But how about daily operations? Are you somehow managing parts of this?
We have a support agreement with Royal Greenland, and I think that's a good way of doing it, because so they don't need to have in-house skills for all this. And maybe larger customers, it makes sense to have in-house skills for this. Big companies that maybe have many solutions running on BTP or something. But again, it's case by case, I think, to evaluate if that makes sense.
That's interesting, because when we go out now meeting customer, positioning BTP, our traditional people we are talking to, it's a new environment for them. And trying to enable them, getting them onto the platform, setting up some of the fundamentals of the different tiers and how they should think about it. But then, it is what we're trying to convince them. We're really investing in the B2B, and we are giving away free tiers, stockers, get the grip over this new landscape that will be there for sure going forward.
Is that a general observation also from your side? I mean, you interact with a lot of SAP clients, and are they kind of, I'm sure they are not reluctant to enter into B2P services, but do they have the sufficient skills to actually adopt those solutions, or is there still a way to go?
It's some customers feel that, okay, I bought a cloud solution, it must manage itself. And then you have to say like, no, okay, well, yes, it's a cloud solution. It's but you still have to have a look at it and make sure that everything's running, and maybe hit a button here and there, and making sure memory is not running out or this is not running out. There's also a nice upgrade button you have to hit on HANA every now and then. If you don't have it set to automatically upgrade. So it's and you have to train the customer up in this space. I think a lot of customers, especially coming from the old space, they're like, okay, HANA, basis guy, you look at it. SAP Cloud Connector. What is this thing? Okay, we'll just leave it there. and no one manages it.
Yeah. Because there is no history of using it. 5 years from now, it would be a different story, but now it's a lot of new stuff.
And maybe they give it to the basis guy, but the basis can't do much on there because it's not a basis function. And when it's broken, it's the application developers like, I'm trying to talk the back end and I'm getting weird error messages. Can you help me? And the basis guy's like, I don't know what to do. So we have to upskill the customer and say, well, okay, these are the different aspects of what you need to manage, and we can help you find resources to look at these things, and how you also give access and roles to the different services that are available. Should everyone have access to the HANA database? Like, well, not necessarily. Luckily now with using the HDI concept, the developers only get access to the schemas that they need to get access to. So they don't need to have a super admin access to the database. Okay, but from monitoring perspective, you do maybe need a monitoring user. So if for operations, someone's going to be doing operational support, needs to make sure that the HANA is not running out of memory, it's not getting out of memory exceptions. If there's heavy queries and I need to debug this, I need access to this thing. So you need to help the customer understand these concepts.
And structure there, the roles of responsibility and access rights.
Exactly.
Which has been there in the C world for ages. So everybody have an opinion and know how to do it.
They know exactly, Are you using HDI containers in this project?
Yes. Well, CAP
that's the way to do it.
CAP is inherently using HDI containers and everything. So.
Right, okay, super interesting and so great to hear about a real project. What are the next steps for this, if any? I mean, are there anything on the horizon for this particular project?
I've heard sustainability been mentioned in the video.
Yes, one thing is we're building right now, as we speak, an Android app. So we hopefully get all the fishermen on board with time. And then sustainability-wise, there are a lot of demands from the authorities. I don't know, should I explain a bit about that? So, for example, one example is there is a fish called stenbider. That's lumpfish. Yes. And to get that MSC certified, Marine Stewardship Council certified, then you need to be even more detailed about the catch context. So the registrations are even more important, how this fish was catched, and also bycatch is very important. Did you, for example, catch some seals or were there also some seabirds in your net? You need to register that also. Because then it can be tracked. Is this still sustainable, this fishing that they are doing? Or are they catching much too many other things they shouldn't? But for this lumpfish certification, it's actually a requirement that all these data are provided. So digitizing this and giving all these data supports sustainability in that way so they can get certified.
So to land this fish, you need... To document these things. Okay.
So it all comes down to sustainable fishing. You want to make sure that the certain fish are not being overfished, and so you need, by tracking the numbers, what is being fished, you can track that and you can do something about it. Making sure when you catch fish, it has to be a certain length, certain weight. You can't fish the young, or certain rules and requirements. And as David said, there's licenses that they need in order to do this. So through the app, we're able to tell the fishermen, you need this and this and this, and we can help them upload the documentation for this. So then when an inquiry comes, you can say, well, the fisherman is certified, he has the documentation. So it's all about sustainable fishing and enabling the fishermen to be more transparent, and of course Royal Greenland in turn to be more transparent about where they get their fish from.
It's interesting because within SAP we have heard about challenges similar to in Japan's fishing tuna fish and that being on the thread. Yeah. So then same kind of legal requirement is needed, and then they're talking about this contract, green token that would be the digital twin of the catch, and it carries on, and you're making updates on that. So I think
it would be interesting. Thank you for that. It's a nice opener for our next discussion with Royal Greenland to say, well, have you heard of this green token? And I think, as we discussed earlier, it's all about how as the governments and also the retailers require this.
And me as a consumer, I don't want to have something bad on the table.
The more we demand this, the more the companies will be forced to become more transparent about this, and this green token becomes a great way to do that. You can show the whole supply chain. This what you're eating right now was fished on this day, on this grid on a map in Greenland.
And now coming to that, I'm QR coding this, and it eventually we're on the spot on the technically it seems
and the fisherman had the right license, and he had this and he had that, and
we can see Royal Greenland has taken the first step, right, or a very big step on that. So everything is in the system now.
And it sounds like this is what we want. I mean, we want to be a consumer that is knowing that I'm not fooled by just a SAM.
Yeah, we want to do the right thing, but we don't want to be cheated, no.
And I don't want to pay more for it as well.
So we spoke a little bit about adoption of B2B services earlier and some challenges there. I mean, what could SAP do better to help you guys bring about these solutions to our clients? I mean,
how much time do we have?
Obviously, error-free software, but that alone does not do it, I think.
Actually, error-free software, interesting. I feel the SAP is doing a good job. I mean, every software's got errors, and I mean, if I look at other frameworks out there, as soon as they release a new version, it's full of bugs as well. So I don't think SAP is doing too bad in that space. I think you probably hear this often: licensing and costing, and how is not very clear. The license agreements, because there's so many of them out there, and you can be this tier or this tier or this, and if you're this customer, then this and this. And I mean, even we get confused, and we just say, just go speak to SAP, because it becomes. So as a Royal Greenland was a very cost-conscious customer, and we had to be very careful about selling this, and luckily we managed to get it through. But if you go look at the list price of HANA, so some people can look extraordinary. Like, how do you sell that?
Especially the HANA database.
So it's being able to enable, and SAP is pushing. Even if you're a small business, you can run a BTP and HANA. Okay, well then help us do that. From a developer perspective, everything is going on in terms of open source is great, and helping do that. And but again, we see in certain areas SAP is enabling the developers with free tiers, but in other areas they're kind of cutting off. It's like, no, there's not really a free tier, or it's maybe a 30-day tier. Like, okay, so what about day 31? I can't develop anymore. I'm still POCing this thing, and for us it's not really a problem because we're a partner with SAP and we have stuff. But I can imagine for other people trying to learn, it can become a challenge. I think running HANA locally has been decommissioned. What was it called?
Developer edition. Developer edition or
Express edition. Yeah. So I think that's been killed.
Okay.
So Okay, well now what?
But another thing I also think is it's like in the SAP portal days, right? Because you sell this SAP portal project, but you only have one app, right? So it's a huge cost just for one little functionality. The same with BTP. If you use, for example, the HANA database, if you just have one scenario, it's going to be more expensive than if you had like 10 scenarios you were using right away, using the same HANA database, where you might can cope with the same storage amount for all 10 scenarios together.
So the stair is sometimes entering
It's
to be too
the first.
For a smaller company, and then we also deal with a lot of mid-sized companies and smaller companies as large ones also, but it's very difficult to get on board if this first step is too high.
So somehow, creating a CAP application without actually having a HANA Cloud instance, but just, some creating a serverless function somehow, where you only pay for these small resources, or
Small resources, or bundle the end-to-end into a starter pack. Because if I have to look at a small customer and I have to sell him a real project, I need HANA. CAP is actually the cheap part because you run it on Node.js, and I think that's the cheapest thing you get out of BTP. But then on top of that, I need Launchpad, so I can put it somewhere so it can look pretty. I need authentication, which I think there's a kind of free version. I need mobile services, so I can offline. Then I'm going to have the SDKs on top of that. That's fine. Then I'm going to have, if I want to make more real time, I want event enablement. That's a cost. I want to get data from the back end. I need SLT. That's a big cost. So it's all of these costs add up, and if I want to do some complex integration scenarios, I need to buy CPI. That's still the name?
Integration Suite.
Integration Suite. So the Integration Suite, and again, another cost. So, you take all these costs, and even though each one has got a starter edition, it's still all these costs, and eventually there's a massive cost. And all the thing I'm delivering is, a simple process. I'm giving them a mobile app, I'm giving them a web app, and that's what I'm giving them. So, but there's a big cost behind it.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting point. No, but we have these missions now. So you go into BTP, you see these missions. So, which is nice, but it should then be followed up with sort of how to get this done from a license perspective.
That would be more customer process-centric. Okay, here we've touched five services. You get a discount of this, or some way of doing this.
Well, we can't promise anything.
No. We demo these to customers, and they're like, okay, but how much is that going to cost? We're like,
okay.
Yeah.
But then we say you have to look at the value you get out of it.
The value and long-term. But I guess this has brought great value to Royal Greenland.
And we see it, because we've been with customers and that they're seeing the long-term value out of it. But when you're going to a Royal Greenland from the beginning and they're cost-conscious, and you say, wow, look at the value, look at the five-year journey. They're like, I need budget right now.
Yeah.
So it's
but once you have these licenses, the next app for Royal Greenland will be so much cheaper, right?
Yes, exactly.
Or rather free, except for the cost to you guys.
Developing cost. Yeah. So one thing we have looked at via Arkin Labs, which is one of our other brother companies, they actually own their own BTP instance. So they can become I think they're official reseller. So we're looking at, for some of these customers, instead of them buying BTP up front, basically building the application on, or buying it from that reseller as a first step. And then when they're ready, they can actually buy the full BTP.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you as a service provider, you're offering BTP?
At least for step one.
Yeah.
Because you need a cheaper option. And again, we have it up and running. We have everything enabled, event enablement. So if you want this, you want that, you want HANA, we have everything there. And we can just quickly give it to you and give you a nice price that makes it attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is then a good idea, actually. And a suggestion for others to follow, Great. It's been super interesting to hear about the Trifork, you guys, and also the Royal Greenland case. Before we round off, and we have to round off, unfortunately, what's in line for you guys? Are you just continuing on the path, or any visions for the future?
Lunch.
trying to land more customers, of course. Our goal is to stay up to date with SAP technology, so we constantly trying to stay in that at the forefront. AI being, the big buzzword. ChatGPT being the super buzzword at this point in time. Everyone's doing AR headsets, so we're also exploring that area. Our job is to make sure that we stay market relevant and ensuring that we can provide the best technology to our customers. Maybe they're not ready for a lot of this new technology, but sometimes this technology can can help them take a big leap. Low-hanging fruit. So basically deal with the low-hanging fruit with some of these technologies, which might seem cutting edge, but if you unpack it, it's actually not that. It's not that complicated. So we try always find these things and see how we can help our customers in the best way. And we have a couple of opportunities in the pipeline that we're hoping will.
And if customers listening here would be interested to contact you, can they do it over LinkedIn or?
Of course. We're on LinkedIn. It's Gregory Doukas, David Kargo, Trifork.
we will add.
Yes, absolutely.
Underneath here.
Yes, we're always eager to talk to customers and show them how we as Trifork we have a reference architecture that we like to talk about and we like to show our customers. So we're happy to talk about this to any of our customers and show them some of our case stories. And we like to. Well, we try to attend as many conferences as we can. So if you find us somewhere, if you see our name somewhere, come talk to us. And
And probably there are many customers going on the RISE model, right? So they're getting BTP for the first time and they maybe don't know what to do with it. So if they need some inspiration or something, then we would be happy to give that.
Awesome.
That's a great.
That's a good suggestion.
Great, finishing off.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Gregory, David, for taking time out to talk to us today in your nice environment here.
Yeah, we were blessed with some sun today in Denmark.
Another time we should do it outside. But this was then episode 24 of Data Lab Dialogues. See you next time.
Thank you very much.